Hello and welcome back to the Pleistocene channel. This is Space Engineers. My name is Daniel, and let's see what kind of trouble we can get in today. Today's episode is actually going to be mostly about welding up. Whoa, no inertial dampers. Dampeners. Alright, it's going to be mostly about welding up this ship we built. So we constructed this last time. This is going to be our welding and grinding ship. And I am going to go ahead and spend most of the first part of this episode welding this up. So I'm going to fast forward through this, and then we'll catch back up in just a little bit. I feel the need to address the audio issue a little bit here. I have recently purchased a new microphone, and it's a fairly good quality studio microphone that's recommended by a lot of YouTubers. And it's a great microphone, but I'm still kind of trying to find the sweet spot on levels. So whereas my headset mic that I was actually using before this, it has a pop filter, and it would record fairly low audio, fairly poor quality, but I had to keep it really close to my mouth to be able to actually get the levels I wanted. Now with this new microphone, I had it just the same distance from my mouth, but apparently the pickup is way better. So I did not realize until after I had recorded like three episodes with it that this is actually like clipping. The audio during this entire episode and the two subsequent episodes are pretty rough, and I used to take actual audio engineering classes, and one of the trickiest things to deal with is clipping audio. So I've cleaned it up just a little bit in the program that I use to edit these videos, but there's only so much you can do with clipping audio. So once again, I hope I've kind of found the sweet spot now. I feel like I feel like I have a pretty good handle on it for future episodes, but unfortunately the next couple episodes are going to be pretty rough on the audio during the normal part of the video. So whenever we're fast forwarding like this, which this is a really long fast forwarding session, whenever we're fast forwarding though, I can fix it for the next couple episodes. But after that, we should have pretty good audio just straight up through the whole video. So I still think it was a good purchase. I should have done a little more testing before I used it actually to start recording episodes. Anyway, so addressing what's going on right now, we started welding up the ship, and we got pretty far along, but then I realized that I was going to probably run out of silver again. And so during this the session of fast forwarding, I actually did have to take out the Ozymandias and go and drill some more silver, and then I brought it back and processed enough to get the 95 reactor components for the large reactor on the construction ship, and so I brought it back and processed it and got that all done, and then I actually ran out of cobalt to make the metal grids. So I had to take a whole nother little section out where I go and try to find cobalt. So the entire recording session itself lasted about an hour just for having to try to find all the components, then get them all put together, get them all created, and then put on the ship, as well as go and drill the materials that I didn't have, so the silver and the cobalt. Luckily, since we have the Ozymandias and it is pretty efficient, we did bring back enough silver and enough cobalt that we shouldn't have to go back out there and do that much again. So the welding of this actually took way longer than I expected. Just getting all the components together, getting them put on the ship. It wasn't difficult, but it did take a long time. So luckily, watching it in fast forward, you don't really have to deal with the entire extent of it. But going through it, it seemed like it was taking forever, and I was like, oh my god, we're gonna go into multiple episodes just on welding this ship together. But luckily, going at 4 times speed, we're actually gonna have an even shorter episode than usual. So it kind of worked out. So while I was building this, I actually was trying to think of names, and I and I didn't come up with one before this episode, so the next episode you'll see what I decided to eventually name it, but we don't actually name it in this episode, which is okay. After we get this ship put together, which ended up using a lot of motors, so I'm a little worried because we're going to need a lot of motors in the future too. So I'm honestly thinking that I might go mine a bunch of nickel and a bunch of iron and just build, several thousand motors just to have them prepared. I also think that I'm going to try to start doing the building of all the materials I'll need for like these welding sessions prior to the video itself. Now I can only prepare so much. Like I can count up how many I'll need and kind of get them prepared, but it may end up that there's a few that I haven't thought of, and I'll have to go back and do those at the time. But really, there's no reason that you guys need to see all of the drilling and all of the fabrication of the components. That stuff can all be done off camera. Things like this, where we're actually welding up the ship, even though it's kind of boring, I still feel like it's kind of important to the story of the series, just to know like what kind of work went into welding up a ship like this. And of course the building of it is really cool. Now I like videos where people are building the ships just so I can see what they're doing, kind of what they're thinking, maybe use a little bit of that inspiration in my own designs. But for the most part, the welding itself, like there's no reason to go into extreme detail on the welding, because really all you do is you go get the components, go put them on the ship, go get the components, put them on the ship. So it's a fairly straightforward process in terms of actually building. So I think this ship actually came out really well. It tends to fly really well. It's weird though, because I'll show you testing it here in a minute, like when I actually take off for the first time. And I feel like the pitch and the yaw are actually really responsive, but then for some reason the roll is really slow, and I think it might have something to do with being in an atmosphere. I think the roll feature is a little slower than the pitch and the yaw. I think it might have something to do with gravity pulling down, but by that same token, it seems like the pitch itself would be exactly the same as roll. It's just on a different axis. So I'm not quite sure why one would be different than the others, but either way, I think it's going to serve our purposes just fine. Now, I do comment later on that the ship is a little bit clunky. However, I do think it's actually fairly agile for a construction ship, and I think that I'll be able to use it pretty well to do what I want to do. We're not going to be able to decorate it in this episode. It took a little too long to weld up, so I didn't get around to putting extra armor blocks on it or doing any kind of detailing. I'll do that in the next episode actually, as well as put the name on it. But it ends up looking really cool in the end, and a little bit unique too, because most of the ships that I've built in the past have been kind of straightforward. And when I say straightforward, I mean like straight, like from front to back. Like you have your tool end on the front, so you would have like your welders on the front, and then you would have something like power, and then thrusters on the sides and the top. So most of the ships I build tend to look like the Ozymandias, so with tools in the front and then everything else kind of behind it in a straight line. But this one was more unique because I wanted to have the grinders and the welders on the same ship. So I built it with that concept in mind, that I wanted both of them to be facing front. I wanted them both to be usable and to be able to access all the same stuff, because if I end up taking something apart, I want to be able to use those components immediately to start putting something back together. I don't want to have to like switch it to another ship or transfer it to the station and then transfer it into like the welding arm or something. So I put it together kind of with these arms in mind, both able to access the same large cargo container. So you can see right here, I'm kind of realizing that okay, we might not have enough stuff, so I'm realizing that I'm gonna probably have to go and do a little bit of mining, and specifically that thruster right there that's incomplete is the one that causes the problem. I'm short by two metal grids. Come on. So that one right there is going to be incomplete until I get more metal grids. And so I finally bite the bullet and I go mining. And back to old me. Alright, after scouting out and mining the last bit of cobalt we needed to create the last 2 metal grids to finish off this welding ship, we can finally go ahead and do that. Yeah, so we had enough metal grids saved up for every one of these thrusters except for one. So but now we have it, and we've got everything welded up, and we can go ahead and get this ship off the ground. Now the first thing I'm going to use this for is to create a connector to connect up this ship to the station. I want to keep this one open for the mining ship, so this one's going to have a different docking area. But let's get it powered up, make sure it's going to fly okay. Now I am recording this at the same time, or I'm recording this audio at the same time I'm actually flying the ship, so hopefully this ship will take off. Let's see, let's get some uranium. Whoops, I'm doing this the wrong way. Okay, reactor. Alright, so we have a good stock of uranium, so I don't feel bad taking out another 30 ingots to put in the ship. Now, unlike the last ship, this one has a fairly exposed reactor, which I'm going to hopefully be able to cover up next time whenever we kind of decorate the ship. Okay, so it should be hovering on its own. I'm going to hope it is. Let's go ahead and set a few things. We can go ahead and set the air vent. Where can I access this thing? I guess back here. Alright, we can go ahead and set the air vent to take in air so that when we jump in the cockpit, we're not going to be suffocating. And I think I'm going to go ahead and take these out and hope that it stays in the air. Now, unlike the other ship we built... Alright, good. Moment of truth is past. Now, unlike the other ship we built, we don't have to. We're actually not going to put landing gear on this because just the way it's laid out, landing gear just don't really make sense. So we've got the one large storage container. With welding ships, it's easy to just get a bunch of junk in there that you won't need. Like some things that you build won't need any large steel tubes, and if you have a bunch of large steel tubes in there, it's annoying to find the right cargo container to be able to take out the tubes. So with one large storage container, then I can more easily manage than if I had like several medium storage containers. So alright, I kind of like this ship. It's very unique design. It seems to stay in the air very well. It's got fairly good maneuverability. Might want to add a couple more gyroscopes just so I can turn and do some stuff like that quicker. But we'll see. We'll deal with that when we get there. Okay, so for now I'm going to co-opt this connector. Go ahead and make sure our thrusters are on. We'll go ahead and land this ship over on the pad so that we can use its connector to go ahead and get a bunch of components out of the station. Out of the base, I mean. Okay. We'll have to come up with a name for this one. We'll probably do the painting in the next episode. Okay, so since I have so many large thrusters on this, I should be able to turn it vertically without it falling, but I'm going to do it very slowly just in case. Now this may not be the case once it gets filled up, but for now, I don't have any downward facing thrusters, so I gotta back it up just a bit. Okay. This is more difficult to do since I don't have forward facing thrusters. Maybe I should put some on just in case. At least some small thrusters just for maneuvering. Alright, there we go. Now we're connected up. I'm gonna go ahead and take in into this large storage container. Actually, if I hit this one, oh no, that's not the way it works. Okay. All right. So yeah, large storage container. Storage. No. Why is that not popping up? Oh, because it's cargo. I don't know why I always do that. Okay, large cargo container. Now we're gonna take in a bunch of stuff into this large storage container. We're gonna need a bunch of construction components, steel plates. Which, do I have any of those made? No, I was starting to run out when I was welding up the ship. We may have to start a few of those producing. Okay, let's go ahead and start some of those producing. We'll wait on the grids. I think we have enough of those. Let's go ahead and produce 1,000, or a little over 1,000. So for the connector, we'll need some small steel tubes, some computers. What else? What else? What else? Motors. Oh, that's already in there. Okay, so we can take those motors. Alright, so let's go ahead and get our placement ready. So we're gonna keep that one there. We can make the component one come off of really anywhere, but to kind of keep it on this side of the station, I'm thinking we'll come out. I want it on this side of the station because I don't want to block any of the turrets any more than they already are. They're already having some trouble keeping up with the cyber hounds, so let's go ahead and make it right here. We'll go like that, and actually that's probably enough, so we'll do that, and then we'll make a connector right here. Okay, that'll be enough. Okay, so what all components do these need? Now I can test it real quick. I already got computers, small steel tubes, construction components, motors, and steel plates. Okay, so I got everything that I will need, hopefully. I think we have enough construction components to make this work. Large cargo. Yeah, 399. I think each of those components needs 40, so that should be plenty. And now we have enough steel plates. Okay, so we should be able to go ahead and weld this up. I'm gonna disconnect, turn back so that I'm facing forward. Now I want to set all these. I want to set all these drills and these welders. I'm sorry, these grinders and these welders to individual groups, so I can turn them on and leave them on. Okay, so let's make a grinder group. And a welder group. And then while we're in here, we might as well go ahead and make a... Oh, let's go ahead and save that. Let's go ahead and make a thruster group. Because just like the other ship, I'm gonna... construction thrusters. I don't want to call it the thruster group because I think whenever both ships are going to be connected to the station, I think that might confuse it, and I don't want to turn on other thrusters while turning off these thrusters. So anyway, that's weird. Why are there two grinder groups? That's a little buggy. Okay. Anyway, it'll be okay. Turn the welders on and off with this one. Turn the grinders on and off with 2. Excellent. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this welded up. Now I've put enough thrusters on this that I should be able to get most any angle that I need. The tricky part is going to be getting into these very narrow spaces because it is a fairly clunky ship. Let's see if we can get that one. Yeah, I think we got it. Excellent. Oh man, that's so much more efficient than just doing it by hand, having to go back every 5 seconds for more components. Okay, so this is gonna make our workflow much more efficient. I'll still have to place blocks by hand. They did put in a feature where you can actually do construction from the cockpit. So like I could go into the cockpit view, switch to G mode, and then be able to put components on from the cockpit. Now that's kind of cool, but it's also a little difficult to deal with, because then you got to think about where your ship is positioned, if it's going to stay in the air as you're placing blocks, and I don't know, it's a little tricky. So I'll still probably place all my components by hand, and then after that weld them up using the ship. So but yeah, I like this ship. I think it's a good addition to our little fleet. So we got to come up with a name for it. I'll name it and paint it in the next episode. Alright, so I think that's it. Once again, if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you would like future updates, please hit the subscribe button, and appreciate you watching. Thanks, I'll see you next time.